All right, so I believe the last podcast we were talking about how there should be one kind of standard, how we should all be on the same network, where we want technology to go.
I guess it refers to an idea that you were thinking that you would like to have companies that can provide a broader selection of things. For instance, if you're watching TV shows and movies, you want to have just like one Netflix instead of having Netflix and Prime and Hulu and all these other services that are about to pop up. Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about trying to have all of these platforms kind of on one?
There's just one platform. So there's just like
right. It would
one
just be
thing.
one platform. If you're trying to watch movies, it would just all be on one thing. If you're trying to be on a social network, it's just one social networking app.
Yes. It controls everything. So on this social network, we watch videos, we post about our day, we post pictures, and whatever you go ahead and comment on in the picture, everyone across all the other platforms can see. Well, I guess it'd be everyone on this one platform that does everything for you.
And so the problem with that idea is that right now we have big tech companies that are reaching not quite that much status, but they're hitting a lot of thresholds that are making these companies seem like monopolies, and they're getting big profits. They're getting big profits, and so they're already trying to break these companies up. Because they're saying that they've got...
But why?
Because apparently they've got monopolies on pricing, saying that pricing isn't right. They are gaining too much of your own personal data and, reusing it because nobody really knows how to...
It's kind of...
Well, the problem is that nobody is able to foresee these situations, and so they're not problems until after the fact. We're reacting to these situations, and people see those as big risk because these companies are so huge. They affect so many people.
So in order for the stock market not to crash, or whatever little thing it is not to crash, they have to break these companies up to ensure that nothing bad will happen. Because if these companies get way too big, they can have devastating impacts. I guess the last one being the auto and the home housing market being the last kind of big crashes that we've seen in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, what if we just took the stock market out of the equation?
The only way I'm seeing them to move forward is you have to have, and what you're trying to insinuate is that instead of having a company go public and have funding from stockholders, these companies would have to have their own money. How are you going to have your own money if you don't have a big conglomerate company? It has to come from somewhere. They've already done that. So now they have all their money. These are actual entities now that have a lot of resources in the sense of money. You link that up with something else, and then you have the possibility of having a company that could go in-house with their financing and not have to worry about crashing and impacting so many stockholders.
So you're saying that we should give them these fake values to start off with, and then once they make it past a certain threshold...
They're not fake values. They're already, these companies are already valued at billions of dollars.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And then once they hit a certain threshold, then we go ahead and say, hey, you're on your own. Everything you have to do is in-house. You don't really have a...
Possibly, yes. You let them go ahead and use this capitalist system to go ahead and put it all on the table, put all the risk up, and go public, get investors. If you can make your profits, you make your profits. Once you hit a threshold, you have to pull yourself out of the the public eye, and you have to become a private company, and you have to do all your own financing. Yeah. You want to become big time, and you want to, kind of cover a big old deal. You have to have your own financing.
See what your product's really worth,
so that you're not impacting a whole bunch of investors.
If you end up coming up with something, and you meet, let's say, someone from around the world that has something just as similar to you, so what? They can buy them out. and then go ahead and make something even revolutionary.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if you would, that's again where you get into a whole nother idea of, what teaming up with another company from another country, another big tech company, and how you would start, I guess, creating these all-in-one platforms.
Yeah.
So,
And obviously, if we don't like that product, let's say Apple made it so big, they meet a certain threshold. Let's call it, I don't know, let's just throw $1 trillion. Let's say your company's worth $1 trillion. At that point, you have to pull out, do this and do that. And then you basically see revenue based on what your product is worth. And if you fail, there's no one there to help you out. Wouldn't that make people more, well, I guess company owners, more scared of risk?
I think at this point you have to go ahead and do that. If you have that much money, you can cover that risk. You're probably one of the only entities that can cover that risk. And that's the deal, is that you have to have that kind of backing. You have to have it. And once you do, I mean, essentially what you're seeing is these companies that are on the brink of accumulating enough financing to fund small countries. So if a company has that much money,
Where they can fund a small country.
you can fund a small country, you can risk a little bit of failure, and you can come back from that. That's not a big thing. I mean, companies risk losses on a regular basis, and just because your company isn't successful, it doesn't mean that you can't operate. It just means that's the price of doing business.
Okay.
And everybody just wants to always see increases in profits.
Yeah, it's weird. If you ever worked for a corporation, it's like, for example, I work retail. So, not to get too specific, but I kind of see these reports that we have because they're posted up everywhere. And it's basically saying, hey, this is how much we made last year. This is how much we promise investors will make, today or this week or this year.
Yes.
And we'll go ahead and we'll keep on increasing. And it's
Right.
like, what the hell? Well,
Yeah.
how do you expect, like at some point, don't you max out? Like in a company's eyes, do you just never max out?
No.
Like there is no-
In order for this business model to work, you have to have increasing numbers. If you don't have increasing numbers, you start making adjustments. They start firing people. They start moving people around. Put other people in place. Start getting ideas together. How do we make these profits increase?
That's crazy. I
It
think
is.
at that point you should have two options. You either close, become a private company, do all your own funding. You can do bigger and better things, or you you remain a public company. However, your wages go down in terms of the CEOs and corporate and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then those at the bottom end, their wages go up. So everyone just kind of equalizes to an extent. There is going to be some margin of a gap. Someone making CEO decisions about whether the company should do this or that versus someone who's just selling stuff.
Right, but there's a big
But there shouldn't be that much of a big gap between the lowest earner and the highest earner in a corporation.
we
That it
have
should be a lot
we have
slimmer.
that's a big deal with minimum wage and having
Yes, but again,
a livable wage to.
I think minimum wage is it's not even recommended anymore. Like you just can't live off minimum wage.
Right, it's not a livable
So-
wage. Minimum wage is not a livable wage.
So like,
And you get into that stuff. That's a lot more discussion.
yeah, it should be the company's
But-
role to.
As far as business goes, yes. I mean, if you're not making money, essentially, they start closing these businesses. They start seeing losses, and it's just a bad business, and they start looking.
Yeah, but
to
every
close
business
down.
is just a bad business. Like these are all bad business ideas, bad business models. Like
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying
Like,
is
it's
that,
ridiculous.
maybe we need to kind of rethink that, you don't have to make,
You don't have to make $100 or 100% return on
well,
whatever it is.
not even 100%. Some of these
Yes.
products are 500%.
Yes.
Some
Well,
are, they're
my reasoning, you shouldn't want to make absurd numbers of returns
right on product.
if you're not taking care of your employees.
Well, not only that. I mean, that the employee deal is, it's kind of tied in, but because you have to pay your employees as well, so you have to cover that, and they have to not.
Yes, but again, if you're selling a product for 500%, 400% is going to you. Simple as that.
Probably more.
Yeah, if not more.
And
Yes.
that's the thing is that these corporations are able to make all these big profits, and when things are going well, and the big execs are the ones that get to benefit off
Yes.
of this, and then everybody else just kind of suffers.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to promote how do you get these companies even bigger, right?
Yeah.
But maybe we need to change a lot more just on the aspect of corporations and how to have our employees treated a lot better with the ability to still grow.
Yeah. So, like, again, minimum wage is like, it's like this is the bare minimum you can make. They went ahead and passed a law saying in, 2025 or something like that, or 2020, 2021, that minimum wage was going to go up to $15.
Right.
And I'm like, that's how much money we should be making right now as of August 23rd, 2019? 24th. We should be making about $15 right now.
Yes, but even at $15, it's a difficult wage to.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You should be making that right now, because by the time you're in 2021, you should be making about, let's say, $25 an hour.
Well, I mean, that's 2
Just
years
throwing
from
numbers
now.
out.
That's
Yes.
2 years from now.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, realistically, we could push the conversation about how employers should be more fair, and we should have a way better capitalist system where we're taking care of our employees and not making huge, crazy amounts of profit, but it's all kind of, fed by greed. Everybody wants to have that money. I mean, as far as small business goes, it's difficult, when you have kind of a regular company that just, they're not making big, huge increases in profits.
And it makes sense because they're not getting that much more than their employees. Like, there's not a
right, and that's what I'm saying.
huge-
Those companies where
Yes.
the owner isn't making a whole lot of
Yes, like
money
you don't see the
compared to
owner
employees
coming in a private jet.
Right.
Or
These
anything like
these
that.
are independent companies, like restaurants or
auto shops or carpentry stuff,
construction,
construction,
smaller
yeah.
construction companies. Yes, I mean these guys may, you could make upwards to 100,000, but you could have employees that you're paying close to 50,000.
Yeah.
And that's not a big, huge gap, even though you're making twice as much. I mean, executives are making,
triple.
Oh, and more than triple. I mean, they're making 100,000 in a bonus.
Yeah.
Just a bonus. They're making they could be making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Some of these
crazy
execs.
stuff.
So
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on with that sense. But what's the excuse me? What's the incentive to have these companies go ahead and become bigger?
Like, you do something good for something. Like, I just downloaded a Jesus, what would you call it? A search engine, essentially. It's called and I might be saying this wrong, but Ecosaya. And basically it's a web browser that it will plant trees every time you search. Like, it uses your search results, and again, I'm not sure how legitimate the search results are, but they're estimating that 45 searches that you do will go ahead and help plant one tree. Yeah, and so that's their biggest thing. And I went ahead and looked into it. They are sponsored by Bing, and I know Bing is not 100% natural. What's it called? Renewable resources operated. And I think they're like 42% or something like that. Point being is that this company says that we're going to take our profit margins, everything we have, 80% of our surplus profit, and we're going to use it to give to these nonprofits to go ahead and plant some trees.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Right.
one idea of a company that's doing something that's, kind of,
Groundbreaking.
it's something different in
right.
a different direction. So could they buy other companies? Those private companies?
Yeah, I mean,
that's the big. Well, what if
and that's
you buy a company that's in the stock?
I think that the topic kind of that we're pushing also is that if like Facebook or Apple or Google or any of Amazon,
Twitter,
any of these
Instagram,
companies that are getting huge, if they're able to team up with another company, even if it's an international, something across the world in another country, you have the capability to create something brand new.
So essentially, you have a lot more room in terms of innovation and
right, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying
to get a whole new product.
Capitalism pushes innovation, and it is driven by supply and demand. So when things don't go right, it can fail. But if we go ahead and allow the companies that have flourished in this system to get past that threshold and become something greater, I mean, we could be talking about, it's definitely something, never been seen before. But yes, I mean, we could be pushing the envelope of innovation even further. I mean, we're on the brink of, we're talking about technology and how it could be intertwined with our human self. How do we put this technology more in reach? Like, I don't want to pick up my phone and have to search something to find it out. I want it to just kind of come up. I want it to be quicker. I want it to, how do I integrate this technology into myself?
So, back to full integration.
Right. You're talking about that. And how do you push those ideas? How do you push those boundaries if your company gets to a point where now you're ready to look into that stuff and do the research and development, but you're starting to be torn down because you're too big?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Some crazy
We're
ideas.
on the brink of, hitting this point of, and again, it brings you back to the idea of how do we integrate with this technology, I mean, somebody else could be creating stuff. I mean, right now, this technology is not, as much as it helps us, there's instances that it's afflicting us. For instance, in this election.
God. Well, yeah, I was going to say the election with, again, Cambridge Analytica. There's a special on Netflix that says basically they swayed a lot of people's votes due to Facebook privacy.
Right. Facebook privacy. And again, that ties back into the election, is because you have, all of this stuff happening, and it's not being regulated, and nobody knows what to do. You could have this other company happen in another country where they start doing stuff and they're collecting data, and then their stuff starts manipulating another
because
country.
I think they were doing that. I think because the parent company was based on the UK.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they were actually messing with Brexit, I want to say.
Yes,
and
that's
so
right.
and if you're not informed, Brexit is just, oh my Lord, it's just in shambles right now. And
right, that's a big old mess
too.
And see, these are two instances where the status of our world seems to be in shambles. Where you got the UK trying to get out of the European nations, and you have the U.S. in a big divide from this red and blue, or I don't even know what you would want to call
White
this.
supremacy versus not white
If
supremacy.
you want to get
honestly,
really blunt, I mean,
yeah,
it
I mean that's the
seems
point of this
like
podcast. I think they already
white
know this is
supremacy
not
versus
this is not PC here.
people who don't necessarily believe that idea. I mean, so that's what technology is doing to us right now. If we don't figure out how to integrate with this technology, it's just going to keep consuming us.
Yeah, I could see that.
Is this technology good? Is it bad? Well,
It's horrible.
How do we combat this? I mean, do we let these companies only grow so big so we can only do so much, or do we let them get even bigger?
I
so
say we
hopefully
push
they
it.
can come through with something groundbreaking and get us in front of this technology.
Well, really, it stems from all major innovation comes from the government. The government has to push whatever it is they're trying to push, and then from there, other companies will go ahead and start picking up on that. So really, I think it's realizing that the U.S. government is a company in itself.
Well,
if
I
you
know
want to
what you're
think about
saying.
it like
I know
that,
what you're
it's
saying.
weird.
In that, sometimes like who was it?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes, Neil
He
deGrasse
was
Tyson.
talking about how NASA pushes the envelope on a lot of basic technology.
Yeah, like grooves inside streets and all that.
Right.
Or grooves on a runway.
Right.
And that ended up being, when you're coming on an on-ramp on a highway, that it's grooved so that way the rubber can go ahead and
not veer
off one way or another.
Right.
And it's
Simple
tracked in one direction.
Simple little things like that are created through NASA and whatnot. But well, I mean, I guess yes. You
even
could
computers.
Say, yeah,
you could say even computers.
Right. Yeah, you could, and we're basically just kind of going on that. So, yeah, I guess essentially, if the government needs some kind of counter to whatever's going on,
I say we should be able to
wise.
fund these projects. Like we should be able to fund departments. So, for example, I think NASA gets like a very low amount of income in the grand scheme of things in the budget. I think they get less than one. I think it's less than 0.01% or something like that, or something equivalent to that. But yeah, let's say I want people to go ahead and I just love NASA, this and that, whatever, and my dad's in NASA, so I want to go ahead and donate to NASA for whatever reason.
I think you can do that.
You can just start donating it.
Yeah, I think you can go ahead and start donating your money wherever you want it to go to. It's just that not enough people are doing that. They just kind of, pay their taxes and whatever.
Yes, because people believe that paying taxes
is doing the best.
Yeah,
for
doing
them.
the best
right.
that you can
right.
to do that. But
yeah.
I'm saying we see the government as a corporation in itself. It's the first corporation. And that...
Well, you have a big debate, about... That's kind of where we're at in that...
Well, think about it. We have a budget, right? We have a spending budget. We go over it every year. That's why we have a shutdown.
But again, you have
and we end up saying, like, hey, we can't just, go bankrupt, so we'll just increase the budget.
But you also have these, yeah.
Isn't that kind of dumb, though? Can you imagine a legitimate company being like, hey, we're in massive amount of debt. Let's just push it. Let's just get more. Let's just say, yeah, we're worth more in debt. Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. Like, what company actually does that? What company actually says, hey, we're in massive amount of debt? Let's just keep Donald Trump.
Unfortunately, I was going to say
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, and he's the president of our country.
Look, people,
right
look
now.
how far we're going.
This is how bad things are. Is that you have all this funding,
but you always have him saying like, "Oh, I'm worth this amount. I'm worth that amount." That's the speculation,
and that's
the
problem.
fake value.
That's the problem. That's where we're at. That's the whole big old issue here. And now you have this guy in government running this big old corporation you're talking about.
It's the art of the deal. just fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. That's what this discussion is really about. Is that you have a lot of these bad practices that are occurring, and they're trying to do things a certain way, and we need to open this discussion to what is best for serving the greater good.
I say we push it. I say that we treat the government as a company, and if we don't like what they're doing, XYZ will happen, whatever that may be. We either say, nah, we're going to appropriate funds over here versus over there, or because when you think about it, no one really knows how much, unless you're in the actual government or you just really have a passion for it, no one really knows how much is getting spent in each department or each sector or whatever like that. We don't know how this money's being used, for what it's being used for. And that's the crazy part. Like, you realize that there's a big covert ops that gets covered, but we don't know nothing about.
We're shifting the conversation, though, to a lot about government and government corruption. Talking a lot about the bad stuff that's going on in the government.
No, because again, if you see them just like a company, whether or not they're the government, they're liable for where all this money is going. Just like if they had been, for example, if I worked retail and I find out that my corporate office is appropriating money into some BS versus, healthcare benefits or something else of that nature that could be beneficial to me, I would want to know. I would want to know. Like, they're just pushing money into this BS product, and they're just trying to get out the door to raise margins. Versus, hey, I need vision. I wear glasses.
I would almost say, oh man, we get into a tough discussion here, trying to get companies really, really huge and trying to have a government exist with them that's a difficult thing. I guess you have a government who would be competing as a corporation in essence. I mean, they essentially did bail out this U.S. economy when it went under. I mean, they played a part of like a financial institution and provided all that money.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
right, but
some crazy stuff.
But we don't want that. We're talking about having a corporation just become big, huge, and take care of their own self. And if you're taking care of your own self, I mean, if you're able to fund a small country, you need to be funding all your people as well. Everybody who's employed in your company. The government shouldn't have to take all your money unless they're just making huge profits and paying out bonuses and giving their executives large salaries. Then that's when the government steps in and says, I need to tax you on all of this so that we can go ahead and take care of people health wise. And financial wise or housing wise or whatever assistance that may be needed. And I think that we need to shift from that and start thinking a lot more broad. I mean, if we're trying to integrate with this technology, a government in one country is not going to have that power anymore.
No. They're not. Like, these companies are way too big.
That this, treating this, I understand up to this point how it could be that the government, the U.S. government, could seem as a corporation, but we might need to get away from that. And
so you just take private money away from the government, or not private money, I should say, company money, corporate money away from the government.
Corporate money away from.
So we fund our own politicians. We fund our own. Whatever, like say you believed in one of the 30 million candidates, right? You give them money directly.
Exactly, and you take all of the donations from politicians out. You take all of the
lobbyists and all that,
right? The taxes and all that. I mean, you don't need huge amounts of taxes if you get companies to start taking care of their employees. I mean. This is a deep conversation, man. This gets into what if these companies start replacing their employees with robots?
Yeah,
and
that's exactly where we're heading.
Then you would need a government just to take care of humanity.
And that's why you have $1,000
just to put
Basic income.
You get back
Yang
to
gang.
putting
Yang gang.
you go back to putting taxes back onto these companies to say, nope, now you need to fund humanity.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff. Well, that's essentially where we're heading, man. Like right now is in the next decade, if we do not, well, I would even say the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, if we do not have everything figured out of how we're going to take care of these people who are losing their job to corporations who are now hiring robots, where are we going to be in 5 to 10 years? My job in retail is not going to exist in 15 years.
No.
It's just not.
No.
And if it does, it's going to be a horrible job. They're going to have half the amount of employees that we currently have, and we're already understaffed as it is.
Oh, man. Golly. Just talking about corporations getting big.
Yeah.
Trying to, we want something, but at
In
what
reality,
cost? At what cost? At what cost?
In reality, we need to think of something. I don't know. You just either cut them off and say, hey, figure it out, take care of your people, or your people are going to turn on you.
This definitely needs to become a discussion in everyday life for people to think about. Where are we heading? Where are we going with this?
Where do we want our technology to take us? Apparently away from our job. We want technology to do our job.
So, not only just where do we want technology, where do these big companies fall into place? How do we...
Yeah, well, they're the ones that are really putting the upfront money to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
Like, for example...
And that's what I'm saying.
You ever been to a McDonald's? You ever been inside a McDonald's?
Yes.
They have kiosks.
Yeah.
You don't need no human interaction.
Yeah, I know it. There's kiosks everywhere. I mean, you just, it's like you go to Walmart and it's like if you don't know how to do online
or
shopping,
self-checkout. Have you noticed self-checkout?
Oh, yeah, self-checkout.
Both sides?
Right. It's all self-checkout. There's almost no cashiers there.
There's really just two.
Right.
And that's for cigarettes.
And what I'm getting at is that they're pushing online. Like if you don't know how to do an online deal, we'll show you because they want to, they want to move forward. Everybody's trying to progress. Everybody wants to, because the demand is there. People want that as well. And big tech companies are saying, hey guys, your old store, how it used to function, will function a whole lot better when you innovate. And so they're throwing in all this technology, and we want it because we don't want to spend time sitting in line, waiting for a cashier.
No, I'm spending time in line waiting for this old person to figure out how to use a scanner. Because apparently they've never had to use a scanner before in their life. So
right, but and that's why they're pushing the online deal to where it's like don't even wait in line. And so they want this innovation. They want that. You want it. And where all is this heading? Where are we going with this? What does this all mean?
Dang. So, yeah, start planning now. What are you going to do in the next 10, 15 years? Where do you see yourself?
Well, and also, how do you support these companies? How do you keep wanting more services from Amazon?
I want anytime delivering from Amazon.
And
anytime.
How do you...
2 a.m. is fine with me.
And how
I'll
do
wake
you
up for my package.
Allow them to continue to grow into these conglomerates?
So long as it's a human person delivering the package and not a robot.
They already got robots.
Jesus Christ.
Packages,
Jesus Christ. Well, too late for that.
And robots. Apparently UPS was also using autonomous delivery trucks without anybody even knowing.
Well, at least let me know that if the delivery trucks are renewable resource powered.
Yeah, I think
okay, well then there's that. So not too bad, but still pretty bad.
Yeah. So yes, that's what you need to go ahead and start questioning. What is going on with big companies? Are they beneficial to us and where we're wanting things to go, or do they need to be torn apart as our government is suggesting?
That is an interesting conversation. I'd want to see one of these companies not be torn apart and see what it does. Doesn't matter which one. Well, I guess it'd be a tech-based company.
Yeah, it's big tech.
Yeah, it has to be a tech-based company.
Yeah.
10 to 15 years, calling it. We'll see where we're at.
Alrighty, guys. Yeah. Well, that's what you have to think on. And until next time.
Yeah.